Hey, friends. This is Martine Williams, and I am obsessed with all things mompreneur life and helping you to remix your priorities, your habits, your mindsets, and yes, even your relationships so that you can build a successful business without losing yourself in the process. I'm also obsessed with the color turquoise and lyrics of the 80s and 90s, but that's beside the point. Girlfriend, you don't have to hustle 24/7, 365 and continue to sacrifice your health, your relationships, and your sanity to be a successful mompreneur. As a small town girl living in a lonely world to a six-figure mompreneur, I am here to teach you how. There is a better way, and this podcast is your one-stop shop for all of the how-tos, the encouragement, the life hacks, the success tips, and of course, a little side of tough love. This is the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. So let's do this. What's up, friends? It's Thursday, which means it's another episode of the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. And it may be a little echoey. You may hear a different sound because I'm actually in my new office. Some of you have been following along on Instagram as we moved in October, and it's just been a slow process with getting my new office in order. And there are no rugs on the floors. There's a little bit of furniture in here, but we're about 50% there. So the sound might be bouncing off the walls. So if I sound a little different, that is the reason. But thank you so much for tuning in to episode 32 today. And today's episode is really just going to be a life update. I know many of you have reached out and said, what are you doing? What's going on? How are you doing? And so I thought I would just give you a little quick episode today to let you know all of those things. So it's been 2 full months since my life got turned upside down, as the Fresh Prince would rap in his song. And January 12th was the day that I publicly shared with all of my Facebook family on how God was calling me out of my 15-year career with 31 into a season of rest. And honestly, I had no idea what that was going to look like. There were a lot of doubts, a lot of fears, and probably one of the hardest decisions I've had to make professionally and personally. And if you want to hear the full story, if you haven't listened to the full story, which I know many of you have not, you may be new here, you want to go back to episode 24 and listen to the story, listen to how it came to be. Just be encouraged by that. I know some of you may be in a season where you're feeling a pull and a tug to leave something that is precious to you, something that you thought you would be with forever. And you just kind of want to know how to navigate that. So I share the full story there. So be encouraged, and you may even be challenged, as I was challenged during that time. And I just got finished reading a book by Ali Worthington, and she says in there that clarity can wait, but obedience can't. And as hard as it was for me to make that decision, that's really what it boiled down to. When I realized that I was walking borderline in disobedience, and even though I didn't know what my next steps were or what he was calling me to, I did know with 100% certainty that he was calling me out. And at that point, I just had to be obedient, and clarity just had to wait. And on the other side of obedience is blessing. And I don't mean like now that I've been obedient, that my life has been great and there haven't been any challenges or anything like that. And I'm definitely not talking from a monetary standpoint either. But, when we obey, the blessing comes. And Ali talks about that in her book as well. And, God calls us into seasons of rest. And when it may feel like we're sitting on the sidelines watching life go by, which is kind of how I felt. And I'm kind of paraphrasing some of the things that have come out of Ali's book. There have been days when I've just woken up and thought, I'm wasting my time. Like this doesn't make any sense, Lord. Like this waiting and this resting. I am a very driven mompreneur. I've always been that way. I've always been a hard worker. And I think there was a difference in hardworking and hustling. So hear me there. But going from that pace to this pace that I'm currently experiencing has been difficult. And there have been times where I have felt guilty. Like there are so many women and men that don't have this opportunity that God has given me to rest and to just soak up the season that I'm in with my kids And so there's just been all of those feelings going along with this season. And so when I say blessing comes after obedience, I don't mean, I know Allie doesn't mean that like everything is going to be hunky dory on the other side. But what was encouraging to me, I think it was in her book, she said, God is just as much at work in us when he calls us to rest as when he calls us to engage. And I will tell you that he has shown up in ways that I haven't experienced in a really long time, in a very personal way for me as well. And so the question that I've been getting the most is like, what are you doing? What are you doing with your days? What do your days look like? What's next for you? I'm so excited to hear what's next for you. And my answer has basically been, I'm excited to hear what the next step is too. I haven't heard that yet. I don't have any, real clarity or guidance in what my next steps are. I will say that some things are starting to cultivate. Some pretty big and scary, bold things are starting to cultivate. And I will share more of that with you as it comes clearer to me. But at this time, I would just say, just pray, really just pray for me to just have the ears to hear and the eyes to see and the heart open to what those next steps are, because I know that he's calling me out of my comfort zone. But at this time, right now, it is still a season of rest. And one of my friends said to me when this first all came about, and I said, I just don't know what I'm going to be able to do with my days. Like the fact of waking up in the morning and not looking at my calendar and not knowing what I'm supposed to do that day, what calls I'm going to be on, like all of those things and that pace that I was used to. And he said, rest is also active. And that really gave me a lot of freedom to not just sit around, or not like that. That wasn't what God was calling me to, was just to lay around. Like it wasn't so much a physical rest that he was calling me to as it was a soul rest, as it was to getting back in alignment with some of those core values that for whatever reason had just kind of gone by the wayside. And so I don't know where you are as you're listening to this, if you're finding yourself in a season of rest, or if you feel that tug to kind of put the brakes on whatever dreams you have or whatever goals you have. I mean, honestly, like I bought a planner for 2022 and I bought it with Cultivate What Matters. I'm going to talk about them in just a few minutes, but I haven't any book I've read or any journal that I have that requires me to write down goals or strategies or anything like that. Like I literally cannot even open it and put pen to paper. My brain is just not ready for that yet. And I think that's by design. I do believe that God has me exactly where he wants me, which is in the season of rest and kind of pouring in. But to kind of answer your question, so I think I shared with you on a previous episode that my word for the year is cultivate. And that definition, the reason I loved that word so much is because I knew it was rest, but I also knew it was an active rest. And cultivate means to break up the soil. So it's an action verb, action word, to break up the soil in preparation for new growth, to tend to grow. And that literally sums up what the last 2 months have been like. And I think will continue on this year. So I've been cultivating, I've been cultivating by reading some of the books that I have read. If you're following me on Instagram, I'll try to share those with you, but and this is in no order, but I've read Just Do Something by Kevin DeYoung. And it's a really small, but it packs a power punch. I would tell you that it's basically like discerning God's will. If you struggle with decision-making or knowing your purpose or God's will for your life, it really just kind of simplifies it down and helps people like me who question and want all the details and want all the answers to just do something, like just take that next step. But it has all kinds of scriptures and stories that are just so encouraging. So I definitely recommend that book. I've also read Soul Rest. Some of these I've listened to on audio, and I also purchased the book. That Soul Rest is one of them, and that's by Curtis Zachary. I said earlier, I didn't really feel like I was physically tired, but I definitely in my soul was tired. I've been doing a lot of pouring out. And his book, he really addressed some of the guilt that I was feeling for having this opportunity to take, these months off and really rest in God and rest in him. He talks about, we get into kind of that trap of working for God instead of working with God. And that was a huge kind of aha moment for me as well. So if you are just feeling burnt out, if you're feeling exhausted on all levels, this book will so encourage you that sometimes we work because we don't trust him. And if you remember, that was part of my story of stepping out, do you trust me? For such a time as this, Martine, do you trust me? And sometimes we just keep working and we keep doing things for God, but we haven't invited him into it. And then we have this just exhaustion that comes along with that. So Soul Rest by Curtis Zachary. Hero on a Mission by Donald Miller was really great. And then Standing Strong by Ali Worthington is the last one I just finished. Lily just finished it last night. It's amazing. I truly feel like she was writing my story. We have so many parallels and similarities in the journey that God has taken her on. Different details, of course, but just similarities of being called out of where you thought you would be forever. And just that journey of disobedience and obedience and having the confidence. So I highly recommend that one. And then I read The Dip by Seth Godin, which is, again, another really short book, just to kind of help you figure out whether you should stay where you are or whether it's time to walk away, specifically to business. So that's more of an entrepreneur book. Okay. I've also been journaling. So I will happy to report that those of you that know, that was one of my goals for this year, was to journal more consistently. I actually wasn't journaling at all before 2022. It just was an overwhelming discipline for me because I had all these blank journals and there was no prompt for me to write. And if you're not a writer by nature, then seeing a blank page was just overwhelming. What do I talk about? What do I write down? This is silly. And I remember even as a kid, I had a diary, a little Hello Kitty diary, and I never consistently kept up with it because I'm like, what am I supposed to put in here? This is weird. Why are people doing this? But I'm happy to report that I have found a journal that I've consistently written in since January 6th, almost every day. I may have missed 3 or 4 days in between now and then. And it's from Cultivate What Matters, which is the same planner that I bought. It's an amazing company. They have so many beautiful products that I did not know anything about. No one told me about, which is one of those ads that popped up on Instagram. But I'm so thankful that I found them. And so there's a series of journals, and the one that I chose to start with was Cultivate Hope. And basically you write the word. So on the left side of the page, you write the date, you write what you're thankful for, which is always a great thing to start your day with. And then there's a scripture or a group of scriptures you write in your own handwriting so that it helps you to remember. And then on the right side, you kind of write out, what's on your heart for that day. It could be specifically from that scripture. For me, I know I've been going through some other devotionals like Oswald Chambers, My Utmost for His Highest. If you've not ever walked through that entire devotional, it's an oldie, but it's a goodie. It's no fluff, straight to the point, can be encouraging, can be convicting at the same time, but My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers. And then I've been sent a lot of different devotionals. So I've been kind of pulling from a little bit. And so what that one page for me is just kind of downloading. And I do find similarities between, or a simple theme for that day. And I really can't even express to you just how God has met me at each time and is definitely walking with me through this. The third thing that I've been doing is purging. So I've been purging files, office supplies. We're kind of renovating our house. So we're going to be finishing out this office that I'm in. For what work I'm going to be doing, still don't know. I've been sharing videos of it, but I'm really excited about just a fresh start. I feel like that's what he's saying. I need you to get ready. I need you to clear the clutter, meaning from my computers, my files, all the things, and just clear the clutter and get ready for what's next. So I've been purging house stuff as we moved, still kind of going through some boxes. I have found books that I didn't know I had. I have so many books. I really don't need to buy another book for at least 10 years, I feel like. So really kind of purging. For me, it's getting rid of what is not necessary, kind of becoming more, not a minimalist, because I'm definitely not that, but definitely trying to streamline and purge out those things that are no longer serving me or my family, or just creating kind of a heaviness. The fourth thing I've been doing is preparing. I do think that not only is this a season of rest, but it's a season of preparation for what's next. And that for me has included Bible study. It's included conversations with like my inner circle friends, like those that know me, that have done this journey with me, kind of sharing with them what's been put on my heart, what I feel like God is saying. And because, one of the things that came about when I shared my story was I had several people reach out to me and just say, I'm so encouraged and so challenged by how you heard God speak to you. Like I have never heard him speak to me like that. And I will say it wasn't like an audible voice. I didn't hear like an audible voice, but I heard him speak to my spirit. And he speaks through his word. He speaks through other people. He speaks through worship. And so I would challenge you, if you're wanting that, those are the three key areas for me that he has spoken to me. And I believe that he will speak to you. So just preparing by having conversations and being open and challenged by some of the things that people are saying, that God is saying to them about me, being encouraged by, getting preparation and gathering information. I do feel like that's part of the waiting that I'm in. I'm not waiting and just being lazy and kicking my heels up. I'm definitely waiting, actively waiting and preparing by gathering information, whether it be gathering my notes, gathering my story, gathering trainings that I've done in the past, just really just kind of in this gathering. So as I said, I'm purging some things, but I'm also gathering up other things. The fifth one is pouring in. I've been pouring more into myself. Y'all know I preach self-care. I preach, you're only as good, or your family and your parenting and your mission, your vocation, your job, like all of those things are only as good as you are. And so I've been taking better care of myself. I've always been pretty active, but I've kind of taken it up to a different level. So definitely working out, definitely doing better job of healthy meals. Even my family is enjoying having like really good meals for dinner. Y'all, if you've known me for very long, I don't love to cook. And it's not that I don't love the cooking part. It's the preparation part. It's the planning and the thinking process around a meal. But I've been doing that, and it's been challenging, which has been kind of good. I needed to have some type of challenge, taking more walks, time with family and friends, having conversations. And so definitely having some pouring in moments for me. Number 6, I've been paying attention. So, paying attention to what God is showing me in this season. What are my distractions? What have been my distractions from him, and where he's calling me to next? What are those things that I've allowed to grow or cultivate, take up space, kind of like weeds, when your yard gets full of weeds, like it overtakes the goodness of the grass. And I do think that there have been weeds in my life that God is like wanting me to uproot and just rip those bad boys out. So just really trying to pay attention to what has been suffocating to my spirit, what's been suffocating to my professional life, my personal life, and just pulling those weeds out one at a time. And number 7, really just praying. I've just been praying for clarity, praying for my next steps, praying that, God will continue to use me, which I know he will. I don't have any doubt in that. It's just to what capacity is that going to be? So that's it. To answer your question, what have I been doing? I wouldn't say a lot of it is doing as you would define doing, but those are the things, and those, to me, that is the obedience that he has called me to at this time. And so as much as I'm anxious and eager to do things, I also know my brain is not, it's honestly like the desire to think and strategize for my own personal businesses and things. I'm just not there yet. He's totally just telling me to rest and prepare and pour in. So some of those I just realized those were mostly P's. So there you go. So let me end with an encouragement, 2 encouragements to you. One comes from Allie Worthington's book that I just read, Standing Strong. And she says, something specific needs to be done in the kingdom and only you can do it. Something specific needs to be done in the kingdom and only you can do that. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about where you are right now. Maybe you're not being called out. Maybe you're called to stay right where you are and do kingdom work right where you are. But God created us all different, right? We're all unique. And you have a specific purpose. He has a specific plan for you. And only you can do it the way you can do it. Only you have the personality that you have. Only you have the gifts that you have and the mix of gifts that you have and to do that kingdom work. And so when you think about it in that way, it kind of shifts your perspective and honestly, your responsibility to be obedient and to think through, okay, what does that look like for me? And if you pray and ask, he will. If you seek him, he will show you that way. One of my, when I was purging, I came across the plaque that I had in my old office that I'm definitely planning to put up here in the new office. But my word, in case you didn't know, really my life mission word is hope. I want to provide hope for women to rise up to the next level, hope for women that they can, maybe not change their exact circumstances right now, but they can be taking their next step. Because if you lose hope, in my mind, you lose everything. If you don't have hope, first in him, and secondly, in what you're capable of doing and how he'll use you, then it just takes you to a very dark place. And I've seen the hopelessness in the eyes of women, and God has just put that word on my heart. He has not taken it away. And so on the front of this plaque is in gold, kind of blingy, it just says hope. And then the verse behind it is Jeremiah 29:11-13. So I want to read that to you as we sign off for this episode. So he says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and to not harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you, and you will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart." And when I think about that, that is what I'm doing right now. I'm seeking him with all of my heart. And a lot of times we get so busy, and I'm using air quotes there, in life, doing good things, raising kids and working at your business and all of things. We get so busy that we're not able to seek him with all our heart. We're not able to see him in the way that he wants us to see him. So I am super thankful for this season. And I know not everybody gets to experience this, but I do believe you can create your own season of rest. It doesn't have to be a complete calling out of your current profession as he has done with me. He doesn't ask everybody to do that. But how can you cultivate your own season of rest if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling discouraged, if you're feeling like, life is pointless, if you're feeling hopeless? He does have a plan for you. He does want to prosper you and not harm you, but we must seek him with all of our heart. So I challenge you to do that. I hope that you found this update helpful to you. I ask for your continued prayers over this season. I'm excitedly, is that a word? Waiting anxiously. I don't want to say anxious because I'm not anxious, but I am waiting with expectation, with an excitement of what's next. And I can't wait to take you on the journey. So thanks so much for tuning in to this episode. I will include the books and the show notes and the journal and all of those things for you. But I hope you'll come over to Instagram. I'm not sharing a lot on Instagram right now because I do think that was kind of a distraction for me. And so while I'm on there, I'm not really teaching and training and doing much of that on Instagram right now. I'm still there. So I'd love for you to come and send me a message. Let me know how this episode encouraged you. Maybe some things that I'm doing, you want to start doing or need to implement into your daily disciplines. But thank you so much for supporting me during this season. Continue to listen in. And the podcast will be where I share in depth of what's going on in my life and in my businesses. And so thank you so much for tuning in, for sharing the show, for leaving reviews for the show. Like I just read one this morning that I didn't even know it was there. It was just so beautiful. And I just appreciate y'all so, so much. Every time you send me a message, it helps me to continue to show up and to share, from a vulnerable place, what God is doing and not just the high moments, but also the low moments in my life. So thank you so much. And I will catch you on the next episode. You know that I'm believing in you always. Well, that's a wrap, friends, for this week's episode of the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. Thank you so much for listening and for following the show. It means so much to me. And listen, friend, sharing is caring. So if you loved this episode and thought of some fellow mompreneurs who could benefit, send them the link. Share this episode or take a screenshot and head on over to Instagram and share and tag me at Martine31Williams. We are connected on Instagram, right? It's where you will get all the fun behind the scenes of my life and business as a mompreneur. Until next time, know that I am believing in you always.